I'm anticipating this movie, but I can't say I'm really excited for
So,
it.
I made those statements about last month in relation to Transformers Rise of the Beasts. At the time, I wasn't at all excited for this movie. I was anticipating it, but the marketing hadn't done anything to get me excited. And then that second trailer came out shortly after that video and changed everything. While I was a bit bummed that Unicron was spoiled, ultimately I think it was the best idea to put him in there because that hype got a lot of skeptical people, including myself, won over on going to see this film, even though I was going to see it anyways. But here we are, about 2 weeks out from the release of this movie, which feels strange. I almost can't believe that we're on the cusp of watching another Transformers movie yet again. It's crazy how relatively quick it feels like it came around. But it's coming out in 2 weeks. Here in Ireland, the 8th of June is the earliest I can go see it, so I will be seeing it then. But before then, I wanted to provide my last thoughts going into this. I was going to make a few more videos, but I figured that given my own schedule, rather given my lack of consistency with video uploads, I didn't think I would get it done in time, right? I didn't think that if I made any videos, I'd upload them in time. I wasn't confident enough. So I said I'd do this last video to go over everything before the movie comes out. I don't think I did this for The Last Night or Bumblebee, but I've done this for Spiral from the Book of Saw. And I think I've done it for a few other movies as well. I've done it for video games, obviously with Metroid Dread and a few others. So why not do it for this? My feelings going into this movie now are very different to what they were 2 months ago. Not only am I very excited for this movie, even though I know Unicron will only be in it for like a minute or two at most, but it's still very exciting. I'm also, the whole continuity discussion seems to have gotten answered. The multiverse is a thing in Rise of the Beasts, or at least the bios are indicating it. It's possible they might not factor into the story because we had character bios for the Decepticons in The Last Night and they meant nothing. But that was different. Those never mention any story details. These ones do. So, and because all the plot leaks and everything have been true up to this point, we've no reason not to believe these character bios are accurate. So, with a multiverse, that means it is both a reboot and a prequel. It's a prequel in an alternate timeline because it's in an alternate universe. That's why it doesn't line up with the other Transformers movies, because it's set in a completely different universe where similar events happen, but not quite in the exact same way. And that allows them to preserve continuity while also completely changing continuity. Typically a very lazy thing to do in writing, and normally I would roll my eyes, but in this case, I feel like there's potential here to please both sides of the fan base, because they were saying in 2019 that a sequel to The Last Night was still in development, alongside a sequel to Bumblebee. The Last Night sequel we never heard from again after that. The Bumblebee sequel became this. It got merged with the Beast Wars script, so I'm wondering if the Transformers 6 script, or the ideas for it rather, got thrown in here as well. And that's why we're seeing Unicron. Not that I'm saying this movie will be Transformers 6, but what I'm saying is I think there will be a sense of conclusion here. It could very well be that Unicron in this movie comes from a timeline where he woke up after The Last Night, Quintessa failed to stop him, the Autobots failed to stop him, Earth was destroyed, Unicron defeated everyone and then came into this timeline. I'm thinking along those lines, and obviously, personally speaking, I'd love if Quintessa gets referenced in the movie, but I wouldn't expect it. I wouldn't expect to ever hear from her again. But, there's possibility for things like that. There's, even in just 1 or 2 lines of dialogue, there's potential to offer conclusion. Kind of like Spider-Man No Way Home. It was the 3rd chapter in the Home trilogy, right? But at the same time, it was kind of a conclusion for Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, and it got to be a conclusion for Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, Even though, those films, Spider-Man 3, Spider-Man 4, Amazing Spider-Man 3, maybe those happen. Probably not. I don't know. It seemed like they would for a while, but now it's seeming like they might not. But I don't know. But regardless, those characters got redemption stories. They got some form of conclusions in Spider-Man No Way Home. And I very much expect Rise of the Beasts might do something similar in this. True line references and stuff. We already know music from the previous Transformers movies is going to be featured, so story beats might get mentioned as well, and it might serve as great connective tissue to bring conclusion to Michael Bay's saga, but also kickstart things in a new direction. And in a funny feeling, because of that, my feelings going into Rise of the Beasts are very similar to what they were going into Bumblebee. Because the continuity debate was happening beforehand, but I very much went into Bumblebee with the idea in mind, because all the other Transformers movies had been cancelled after Bumblebee at that time. So it was looking like Bumblebee was going to be the last movie. And I remember going into it with the mindset of like, this is a prequel movie. It's going to be the final connection to Michael Bay's movies. It might even be the last Transformers movie they ever make if it fails. This is sort of like the end of what I've been following since my childhood. And I thought that would be the end, but I'm following it again with Rise of the Beasts. The same situation is happening again. So it's kind of interesting how that happened. But because Primal mentions about a past and future to Optimus Prime, and Primal is Optimus Prime's descendant. So I guess that would make him the future. But also, if Scourge is Optimus from the Michael Bay movies, then you've Primal from the past, Scourge of the future, and it's 3 versions of Optimus Prime. That could very well be something they're doing. I don't know. Random speculation there. Not a lot of evidence to back it up, but it's just, there's a lot of interesting ideas here they could play around with. But outside of that, this looks like the biggest, most ambitious Transformers movie yet. There's so much crazy stuff. Tapping into Beast Wars, bringing in the Maximals and the Predacons, and potentially the Vok, because there is another force in this movie that we have not seen. And considering Unicron was shown, it means there is something else we haven't seen. And I am 100% confident that that's the Vok. The Vok from Beast Wars, I fully expect will make some sort of appearance in this movie. Physical appearance, I don't know. References, definitely. Like there's that shot with like New York covered in clouds and stuff like that. Tigerhawk, that's straight up Tigerhawk. Tigerhawk was a transformer created by the Vok. He can manipulate weather. Like there's no sign of Unicron in that shot. It's just a random thunderstorm coming out of nowhere. So Tigerhawk, that would expand the universe. It would allow you to introduce the Vok. There's so many ways. I think in many ways, this is going to be what The Last Night could have been. It's going to be the film that blows the doors open, and all sorts of concepts from across the franchise can come into play. Different planets, different alien races, and other Transformers across the universe, right? All sorts of villains. This is the one that'll blow the doors open. So in many ways, this will be The Last Night that we didn't get. I suppose you could use the Vok to fill in the role of the creators in this scenario. It's very funny. It's interesting how these things go. And this is supposed to be the start of a trilogy. And like The Last Night, Rise of the Beast is made from like 3 or 4 films stitched together. So to quote George Lucas, it's like poetry, it rhymes. We find ourselves in the same situation again. Now that could very well mean this movie screws up big time. We know they've been changing everything constantly. They're redoing the CGI all the time. Shots from the trailers have been shown in the TV spots from completely different angles with entirely new animations and CGI. So those rumors about the movie being a mess behind the scenes might very well be true. But, it's speculation. We don't know for sure, but it's definitely, I am leaning into thinking things might get messy. They could very well have it all sorted out in the end, but I don't know. I'm of a mixed opinion on it, but I am excited. I didn't talk about the filming at all. I barely talked about this movie all throughout its development up until now, but here we are on the cusp of its release, and as a massive Transformers fan, I felt it was obligatory of me to provide my final thoughts before release. And hey, if all goes well, if this turns out to be the last night that we should have gotten, then I will have plenty more videos to make on the matter. But until then, let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. How do you feel going into Transformers Rise of the Beasts? Do you share my excitement, my cautious optimism? What are your thoughts and opinions on the whole thing? I want to hear everything you have to say down in the comment section below. And yeah, with that all said, thank you all for watching and please subscribe. Novus Corvus out.